The Nikon 58mm f1.4 is perhaps one of the most controversial lenses Nikon has ever made. Some adore this lens, while others wouldn't use it if they got it for free. But what makes this lens so special? I figured it out for you, and with this video I hope to reveal the mystery surrounding this lens. Before I jump into the video, I would like to ask you if you have any experience with this lens. Be sure to write them in the comments. This lens has a somewhat curious focal length of 58mm and was supposed to be the successor of the notorious 58mm Noct Nikkor manual lens. Meanwhile, the original Noct lens has become a collector's item for which you can easily pay $3,000 or more. Will this lens also become a collector's item? It could well be. The Nikon 58mm f1.4 is quite large. Because the lens itself is so deep, I actually never use the lens hood. When photographing test charts, this lens misses the mark and is surpassed by Nikon's nifty 50. This is already a sign for many that they will never use this lens, as the lens is not sharp to the extreme corners when pixel peeping at 100%. A pity, because when you mount this lens on your camera, real potential reveals itself. Most lenses still have an acceptable bokeh at a short distance, but when the subject is further away, the bokeh falls apart with many lenses. This is certainly not the case with this 58mm. Even at greater distance, this lens manages to perfectly isolate the subject from the background and you get a beautiful buttery bokeh. The colors that this lens delivers are really beautiful. The lens does produce slightly warmer tones than the average lens. In addition to a beautiful color reproduction, this lens also manages to display three-dimensional subjects well. Here's a photo of yours truly. You really have the impression that there is actually space behind the head. When you compare this with a standard 50mm lens, this difference is very noticeable. The 50mm gives a much flatter rendering, while the 58mm shows much more depth. Hopefully it is also somewhat visible on this YouTube video. You should also compare the skin tones. With the 58mm this is much more natural. Of course you can still tweak the colors in post, but straight out of the camera the colors are already very good in my opinion. When I see photos taken with Leica lenses, I see some similarities with this expensive Nikon 58mm. When you compare the price of this Nikon lens with a Leica lens, it is all in all not too bad. Here you can see the price difference between the Leica 50mm f1.4 and the Nikon 58mm f1.4. Compared to the Leica, the Nikon is therefore a bargain. This lens is built for soft transitions. It's remarkable that the part that is sharp is smaller than with other lenses. This probably partly explains why there is nice separation of subject and background. You can observe this phenomenon well by means of an example. I just have to thank my dog for willingly cooperating with this experiment. You see both lenses at f1.8 and see that the focus area at the 58mm is clearly smaller than the 50mm. The background blur is also much more pleasant at the 58mm. You can of course wonder if the huge price difference between the 50mm and the 58mm is worth it. For those who want to know, you can buy this 50mm new for about $130, 1/10 of the price of the 58mm. So is this 58mm 10 times better than the 50mm? Of course everyone has to decide that for themselves. A lot also depends on your budget and whether you want to pay the expensive price tag of the 58mm. It's therefore best that you let the 58mm shine at full aperture or limited stop down. That's why you buy this lens for. Then this lens sprinkles and you get enormous subtlety on the sensor. That way you conjure up a magical image. You can create an ethereal look with this lens. For this video I compare the 58mm to the 55mm macro. It's available secondhand for about $160. Both focal lengths are of course quite close to each other. The macro lens only has a maximum aperture of 2.8. How do these two lenses compare to each other? I did a test. It's clearly that this 58mm at f2.8 has a slightly softer bokeh. Otherwise these photos are fairly equal. At f1.4 this 58mm eats up the 55mm macro in terms of bokeh. I wouldn't use the 58mm for product photography. A macro lens is ideal for that. Some say the 58mm f1.4 is a tough lens. This is of course partly due to the small sharpness area, which unfortunately means that there will be some missers in your photos. I have no problem using this 58mm as a 50mm like standard lens. The extra 8mm even gives you an advantage when shooting portraits. When using this lens as a walk-around lens, it's striking how sharp this lens is and what beautiful colors are created. Actually, in post-process there isn't a lot of work to do. I often use the 58mm to take pictures that are useful for my paintings. So I used this photo of a lake for this painting. This lens is quite expensive, but of course you can buy it on the second-hand market for a reasonable price. This lens is an investment, but it could well be that this lens will also become a collector's item in the future. And in the meantime you can enjoy the quality that this excellent lens delivers. Do I like this lens? Of course, this lens has so much character and knows how to display colors and tones so beautifully. Even the Sigma 50mm 1.4 art and all 50mm lenses from Nikon cannot match the quality rendering that the 58mm produces. In a way, this lens is somewhat addictive because you want to shoot everything with this lens. The 58mm f1.4 certainly requires some practice in the beginning, but once you understand how this lens reacts, it produces beautiful results, and this is one of Nikon's finest lenses. For me, the price tag Nikon is asking for this lens is really justifiable. This is not a one-trick pony snobbish lens that only displays beautiful bokeh. This is of course my opinion and my findings. Be sure to tell me in the comments if you also have this lens or used it in the past and what your experience are with it. As always, thanks for watching and I see you in the next.